Hi everyone. The purpose of this video is to go through the cooperating teacher observation feedback form. And I have some standards that I've written out here, and I'm just going to go through those with everyone to make sure they're aware of what I'm looking for when I do an observation. So the feedback form is divided into 5 different sections. The first section is planning, and planning is a little tricky at the beginning of the semester because I realize that not all student teachers are planning everything from the very first day. So I take that into account, but I would like to see you still participating in the planning. At least try to make an effort when you go through the plan with the cooperating teacher to maybe give some suggestions or make sure that for sure that you know the plan before you walk in the door in the morning. It shouldn't be that you come to school, you learn the plan, and then you go. It should be planning ahead of time. That's a big component. Okay, so the planning section, another thing too is are you maximizing instructional time and opportunities? Are you using a lot of varieties of ways of teaching things? And what'll happen is maybe at the beginning you're mirroring exactly what the cooperating teacher does, but as the semester goes along, you might also pick up on some things that you're really good at it. Maybe you'll change up the instructional strategies that you'll use. Are you encouraging student participation? I'll definitely be looking for that. Try to incorporate different ways to get students to participate. And also, are you integrating any sort of technology? Or are you trying and testing out those technologies? Technology should not be used for technology's sake, but oftentimes it's a motivator for students, and it's really a great time in your career to experiment with different technologies so you can get more comfortable with them and also see if they work for you. The next section is called differentiating instruction and engaging students. And of course, how are you engaging students? How are you getting them to not just raise their hand and have 1 or 2 students answering questions repeatedly, but how can you get the quiet students to participate, or how can you get the whole class to participate so you can see what their understanding is and thus modify your instruction based on what they know? Are you making connections between the content and real life experiences? Are you providing active learning experiences, or are you just solely lecturing? Um, Another one too is, and this is a big one that I see a lot of students struggle with, is intentionally planning for special education students, or intentionally planning to provide support and access across the curriculum. Are you giving students the opportunity to be creative and critically think when they're doing their different activities in class? Are you using research-based instructional methods? And are you monitoring what the students are doing and saying, oh, wow, they're getting this, we can move on? Or, oh, gosh, they're not getting this, let me modify my instruction and spend a little more time on this particular topic. Okay, the third category is classroom management, and this is an area where many students struggle initially. Having conversations with the cooperating teacher and the student teacher, I frequently hear the cooperating teacher saying, oh my gosh, the student teacher is allowing them to do too much, it's too loud, it's too noisy. And then I'll talk to the student teacher, and the student teacher will say, oh, well, I don't mind, it's not bothering me. And I think what I come back to every time when I hear that conversation is just remember that if students are not organized and they're not focused, then they're losing instructional time. They're potentially distracting other students, and they're just not getting the most that they can out of the class period that you have with them, which is a very short period of time ultimately. So kind of keep that in mind. Classroom management is very important. You should be focusing on this from day one. So some of the things I'll look for are you maintaining high expectations for learning? Do you have a safe and healthy learning environment? Do you promote social, emotional growth and individual responsibility? And those are some of the things that I'll look at. And I will recommend some books for you that you could read that really give some great strategies for classroom management. I'll also try to coach you So I probably will give each and every one of you feedback on how you can improve classroom management. And please don't take it personally. Just take it as like, oh, my coach is trying to help me to be a better teacher. The fourth section is understanding and organizing subject matter for student learning. This one it tends to be that the students do pretty well in this. If you're not understanding the content, then you're probably going to be in big trouble because you do need to know the content to be able to teach it. I realize that sometimes students are put into a class where maybe their degree is in biology and then they're put into a chemistry class or something like that. So that may not be your forte, but that could be a reality for you when you go into the classroom. So it's a great opportunity to learn and expand on your current knowledge of that particular area. Okay, so some of the things also, are you knowledgeable about the standards? Do you use student and learning objectives and make sure that your students know what those learning objectives are? So you should tell the students at the beginning of the class, this is why we're doing this is the purpose of the lesson. Do you use academic language accurately and appropriately? Do you use multiple means of expressing, representing, and engaging students? Do you collaborate not only with your teacher, but with other teachers within the school? This tends to be a weakness for student teachers, and of course, it's a little difficult. You have to get out there and say, okay, let me go and try to meet other teachers. But if there's a department meeting, try to attend the department meeting right at the beginning of the semester. Don't wait until you're doing your full-time student teaching experience. And get involved in maybe a committee on campus too, so that way you can get a good feel of some of the responsibilities that you'll have while you're teaching. Do you also facilitate equitable access to the curriculum? Again, as teachers, it's our responsibility to help every student achieve to their highest ability. And you have to believe that the students can do that. You have to work hard towards doing that. Sometimes it's challenging. You need to get support within the school, but this is, again, a good opportunity for you to reach out, figure out what resources are available in the school, and learn about it. So that way when you go to your next school, you can say, oh yeah, I know how to do this already, or I know at least where I can take my first steps. The last section is assessing student learning, and this is basically using assessments in the classroom, and I'll be looking for, did you design and administer assessments? Don't just use your cooperating teacher's assessments. If you know that you're going to be giving a quiz, then say to the cooperating teacher, hey, can I take the quiz and potentially write some other math problems on here that we could do instead of the ones that they have? Or maybe come up with a warm-up activity for the beginning of each period and say, hey, I'd like to come up with this warm-up activity, and it's an informal assessment that you could be giving. Another one too that's really hard for me to analyze all the time or give feedback on is your ability to collect and analyze data. So this is where once you've given the assessment, or even if it's a exit ticket that you have at the end of the period and you're saying to students, tell me one thing you learned today, or asking one question and having the students answer it. When you go through and you grade that and look at the answers, then you can compile some data about that, or a test or a quiz or a paper that you've written or had the students write, and accumulate some data on that so you can kind of see, okay, are the majority of the students getting this information? And if they are, we can move on. Or maybe there's a group that aren't getting it, and maybe you can provide them with some sort of special help or work so that they can catch up with the rest of the group. Another one is providing students with the time and ability to do some self-assessment and reflection upon their work. That's really important. And also helping ELL students, or English language learner students, and also students with other special needs in the classroom. please make sure that you do this. Don't just write something very simple on your lesson plans, but give feedback that you know you can use and will be beneficial for those students to succeed in the classroom. So those are the things that I'm going to use to give you feedback. There's also a specific rubric that goes along with this. And the rubric is, I would pay attention more to my comments than the actual rubric numbers. Generally speaking, when you're a first semester student teacher, you're going to get lower numbers because you have to have room for improvement. And as you get more and more experienced, you'll get a higher score on the rubric. But really hone in on the feedback that I'm giving you in writing, the comments that I'm giving you, the comments that I'm actually verbally giving to you, so that way you can improve on those from week to week. Okay, thanks. I hope this was a beneficial video, but if you have any questions at all, feel free to give me a call.